Κύριε Κρόφτ.
Good. Was that going to turn that off? Sorry, nowhere to put my notes. Okay. Well, I'm Джеймс Крόфтт, and I'm the director of the Tutors Association in the UK. Very good to be with you today, and my thanks to Yorgos Hadjitegas of the European Network of Educational Support, the ENES, for his kind invitation to join you this afternoon. The Tutors Association in the UK was founded to address public concerns about the evident variability of quality in the private tuition market through investment in the development of industry standards and improved guidance for pupils and for parents and in the wider public interest. It proposes that the most effective means of achieving those objects is through the establishment of a professional association for the industry. Now, the private tuition industry in the UK is long established, but it has grown rapidly in recent years. Private tutors are utilised extensively by parents to supplement what is on offer through regular schooling and to raise young people's attainment and confidence. To give you an idea of the extent of tutoring in Britain, a 2005 study estimated that a quarter of all children in school received private tuition at some point during their primary and secondary years. Another study a few years later in 2009 estimated that 11% of parents had used private tuition for their children in an academic subject. British parents, it's estimated on 2009 estimates, although this is very much an estimate and obviously a few years old now, spend £5 million a year on as many as 1.5 million tutors. Now, the affordability of tutoring makes it an accessible and highly valued component of many young people's education. But the lack of guidance for parents and the absence of recognised industry standards means that the market continues to accommodate poor quality provision. Our leading tutoring providers have invested, however, significantly in vetting and quality control, but the industry as a whole has been slow to recognise and address this problem. There are no recognised qualifications for private tutors in the UK. A great many agencies appear not to require degrees, for example, for tutors. A great many don't require teacher qualifications. These things are imperfect measures, obviously, of qualification for tutoring specifically, but they give some indication of the difficulty in this area. It's okay. Now, I don't need to tell you about the positive contributions that private tutors make to securing the educational outcomes that we all want to see for our young people. However, and that's taken as read, However, when one looks at the international evidence base, analysis of test data in efforts to try to isolate the contribution that supplementary educators, tutors are making, are often thwarted by difficulties of method, and they also indicate, those studies, that the quality of tutoring is variable. So sometimes these studies find positive effects of tutoring, sometimes they find negative effects, sometimes it's just mixed, you can't get a picture at all. So, to date, market studies have tended to construe the variability in the quality of private tuition as a problem relating to the lack of market organisation and government regulation of the sector. DFE, Department for Education researchers in England, researchers have stressed the complexity of the market in the UK, the variety of organisational forms used, and the volume of business done independently through word-of-mouth referrals, often on the black market, as key challenges for information provision and thus improving quality. The British media have adopted this narrative also, and are eager for stories of parents being taken advantage of by underperforming or unscrupulous tutors. Among teachers and the bodies that represent them, there have been calls for greater regulation, although very few proposals as to what that should look like, fleshed out proposals, have actually emerged. There is, however, cross-party consensus emerging among policymakers across all political parties that around the potential of private tuition providers as state school improvement partners. Under the Blair and Brown governments, funding was made available for a targeted intervention called the 1-to-1 tuition programme, funding that went to local authorities, to municipalities to disperse to schools for low-income and challenged students. There's been a continuation of that policy emphasis in the coalition government's pupil premium policy, by which schools are given additional funding, again, in this case, for pupils who are on free school meals as an indicator of deprivation. And Deputy Prime Minister Nick Clegg and also Minister for Schools, the Minister for Schools have both stressed that one of the ways in which this could very creatively and productively be used is through spending on private tutors for struggling students. However, for the potential of private tutors as school improvement partners to be realised, and regardless of the likelihood of state subsidy or not, initiative to address the information problem is overdue. We believe that the variability in the quality of private tuition is best addressed through a voluntary initiative led by professionally minded practitioners rather than by government. This is because we as an association believe that it's the responsibility for setting industry standards for the protection of the public is first and foremost a responsibility of the service provider to its customers, who are themselves best positioned to articulate what those standards should be. And so the Tutors Association has been formed to this end for the purposes of developing professional standards and a formal accreditation process for individual tutors, professional qualifications, and for ensuring that those standards are properly upheld and maintained. Its aim is to promote best practice in tutoring for the benefit of members, of pupils, and parents, and the public as a whole, through the aforementioned means and also through the provision of information and guidance. Professional associations have an important role to play for the private tuition sector in these respects. And clearly, there are many aspects of what I've talked about that relate and apply whatever the context, the country context in which the association is operative. The opportunity to meet with and share best practice and policy development with my counterparts at other national associations around the world under the banner of the European Network of Educational Support, the ENES, is welcome. And I look forward to continuing in the future what has been a most fruitful dialogue already. Thank you.
Ευχαριστούμε πολύ τον κύριο Κρόφτ.